Hello everyone, welcome back for another edition of Virtual Yin Yoga. I'm your instructor Mike, I'm happy to have you with me this evening. What I wanted to do for tonight's practice is a practice scripted around knee pain and taking care of the knees. The knees themselves, these joints, they typically degenerate through age, just through general wear and tear. So I wanted to design a practice revolving around treating knee pain. I'm not going to say it's going to cure it, but it can definitely help with the pain itself. And a few things that you're going to need before we get started. Obviously a yoga mat, if you got one, go ahead and grab one. You may want to have a yoga strap or possibly even like a towel. Hand towels are a really dynamic prop you can always use. If you got a yoga block, we might use one here and there. We're going to kind of see how it goes as we go along. But any kind of prop that you feel like you need, go ahead and grab it. And when you're ready, then join me back into this practice. But when you are ready, you can go ahead and close your eyes. Nothing to see at this point, just more to feel and pay attention to. And I want you to pay attention to your breath by breathing low in your belly, low in your diaphragm. And if you'd like to double check if you're doing this correctly, place a hand on your stomach below your belly button. You're going to feel the stomach expand when you take an inhale. It's going to contract when you take an exhale. And this is belly breathing. It's the breathing technique I recommend for our practice. It's a slower paced practice. We want to slow things down. Breathing low into your belly is going to help that. It slows the heart down, slows the nervous system down. It also slows your mind down. And again, what we're doing, yin yoga, a gentle stretching style of practice to work into not only your muscles, but the connective tissues. This is the tissue that actually holds your muscles, your bones, and your organs in place and in line. So it's really important to work. And what we're going to strategically do is work the connective tissues around the knee, but all the big muscular areas here too. So it's going to be a dynamic practice. And if you find out that you're struggling with certain poses that I'm recommending, listen up to the modifications that I suggest. I don't expect you to align perfect in poses. I want you to just make sure you're feeling the intention of the stretch. So if you're not quite feeling it, you can listen up to these modifications. These subtle adjustments can make or break your poses. When you are ready, you can go ahead and open your eyes. And we'll start our practice off laying on our backs. You can bring the knees up to the chest and cradle your legs. I just want you to rock up and down on your spine and go side to side, making circles, using your intuition to help wake up these deeper areas, right? These are areas we're going to focus on indirectly. When you're doing a yin yoga practice, you're probably going to work your spine at least a little bit and the hips. But again, with our practice, we're trying to target more of the knees, but everything with the hips and back, they're all going to be involved anyway. So we want to loosen them up, excuse me. And if you yawn, I apologize, but yawning is contagious, if you didn't know that. So what we're going to do, starting this off with a dragonfly pose. So this is a pose that's going to work our hamstrings and our inner thighs a little bit. I wanted to do this pose because, again, the hamstrings, they directly control knee movement. So I wanted to obviously make sure that we're going to do this. So dragonfly pose, you're going to spread out your legs. You can take them as far as they can go, wherever you really feel comfortable, and you're going to lean into the pose. Just start by resting your hands on your shins. After a while, if you feel like you can go a little bit deeper, then work your way down into the pose. But you could always grab onto your toes if you can get them. If not, though, don't worry about it. It's not really the point. You could also go down to your elbows. I'm feeling a little stiff today, so I'm not quite at my elbows right now. If I had a yoga block, this would be a good time to use it. You put that block right in front of you, you can rest your elbows just right on top of it. And then gradually you can either slide the block out further in, or you could just take the block away and try to get the elbows down to the floor. But the intention is for your inner thighs and for your back to stretch. You should feel really broad stretches. And also the hamstrings, we're talking under the bottom of the legs here. And hamstrings are something we're going to work in this practice. We're going to do a couple of things. We'll do the dragonfly, and then we're going to do hamstring stretches one at a time. And then we're going to also stretch our quads. And in case you're not quite familiar with why we're doing this, I know I've mentioned it in the past in these videos, but the knees, they are controlled by two muscular groups. It is the hamstrings, the back of your legs, the quads, front of the legs. So whenever you have knee pain, it's usually related somewhere in here, aside from just like general degeneration. But working all the connective tissues that line these really big muscles, they're going to work directly into the knee because it's all connected, right? Connective tissue is essentially a matrix throughout your entire body of these tissues that just hold you together. So it doesn't just start in one place and end in another. It continues, again, everywhere throughout the body, hence the name connective tissue. Really, really important to work. And that's the type of tissue that we need to focus on if things are degenerating. Just remember to breathe here. You know, some deep inhales, some deep exhales.
Sinking into the pose the best as you can.
On the scale of 1 to 10, if 10 is your deepest stretch, go for around 6 and 7. You're less likely to overstretch there. You're just more likely to relax. So keep that scale of stretching in mind.
When you're ready,
Use your hands. Slowly push yourself out of the pose. Go ahead and lean back, lay down. Take your time on that. No rush to go anywhere. But you got a minute to relax. Maybe you just want to lay down. Just try to really observe the differences in your body after holding that pose for a few minutes. The next target area we're going to focus on, it's going to be our hamstrings. And we're going to do one of these at a time. Aside from just doing that dragonfly, again, we're actually doing a little bit extra on these hamstring stretches today. Starting with half butterfly, you have one foot out in front of you. You got one foot in towards the groin. This leg, though, I'm going to give you a few options, but this is just one to start with. But you have your one leg out and you're leaning over, grabbing something here, the knee, shin, ankle, around the foot, toes, if you can grab them. It's not a competition, so if you can't, don't worry about it. If you can, though, go for it. Or if you want to use a strap to get to your toes, feel free. Throw that strap over the toes and use it to pull you forward. But the intention is the back of the leg and the low back, more of a side of the back. Depends on which leg you happen to be stretching right now. If it's the left leg, just for an example, it's lower right side of the back. There's this like crossover effect taking place here. And you may get a bonus stretch if you can grab your toes, or if you strategically use the strap to pull back on your toes. You can get a little bit of calf and Achilles tendon here. So you get the back of the shin, back of the heel. And again, calves work the knees too. Again, all connected throughout here. So important to make sure that we're working into it. And for those who do have tight calves, often you're going to have Achilles tendon issues. Often you're most likely going to have plantar fasciitis. It's just typically where it tends to rise up. You know, if you have plantar fasciitis, this issue right here in the sole of your foot, the whole band of its connective tissue is not just in the foot. It runs up the back of the leg, up your back, all the way to the top of your head. But the next direct area to start feeling tension from it is the calf and the Achilles tendon. So these are really just all important areas to work. Like I said, connective tissue, right? It's everywhere in your body. So indirectly right now, even though you're working into your calves and your hamstrings, you're also working that whole band that runs to the top of your head. Right? So you're working your brain right now in a way. And you always are anyway if you're doing any kind of exercise. But remember to breathe. Remember to relax here. You know, sometimes trying to bring your chest forward into it can dial up the hamstring, stretch a little bit. Don't really go as far as possible, but just knowing that there are two ways to bend into it. One is to bring your head forward, which works your back more. The other is bringing your chest forward, which tilts your hips more into it, and that's what makes it more about the legs. So no right or wrong on that, just two different ways to bend, that's all it is. And if you're ready, here's your time. Just use your hands. Slowly push yourself out. Go ahead and lean back, lay down, taking your time on that. Always taking that time. Short breather. And in a moment, we'll get the other side. No rush, though. But try to feel the difference between those two sides. I'm sure you notice something. Other side when you're ready, just whatever side you're on, making sure it's the other one. You got your one leg out in front of you and you're going to lean over it here. I only suggested half butterfly. Apologies for not mentioning other options, but I'll go ahead and do so here. But again, before we get too deep into that, remember it is the back of the leg and lower back getting the stretch here. You can also get that bonus calf and Achilles tendon stretch if you pull back on your toes with your fingers or with a prop. The other options for you with the opposite leg, this one exaggerates internal rotation. It's the half frog. I usually don't do it because it causes a lot of knee pain, which is the exact opposite of what we're going for, right? So I personally do half butterfly, just let external rotation take place. But you could always do a dragonfly pose and just lean over that one leg you're going to stretch. Just whatever leg you're stretching, make sure it's that one to make sure you're comfortable in the pose itself. But two sides are different, aren't they? You probably are getting here and just noticing that, like, oh yeah, maybe I'm tighter on this side. I have a limited range of motion. Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe this side you're more flexible. You got a deeper range of motion. You know, sometimes it comes down to just compensation, like you use this side a little bit more, or maybe not. Maybe this is the side you don't use a lot. Sometimes it goes both ways. This is why it's always a struggle for me to give definitive answers to students, because sometimes if you use something too much, it tightens up. However, if you don't use something too much or at all, it also tightens up. So it could be either or. Other reasons why you could be more flexible on one side, maybe you've had an injury on one side, not the other. Obviously, the side that's injured is going to be less mobile. And then we also have, we have to take into consideration the skeleton itself being asymmetrical with your skeleton. Two sides don't do things the same way, and you're never going to, right? It's just one of those facts of yoga that you always have to take into account. That two sides are different. I'm going to have to do it differently when it comes to the alignment, which is why I say in every practice, don't worry about what you look like. The alignment is irrelevant. What we worry about is functional perspective. When I do the pose, do I feel the stretch? Do I feel the back of my leg? Do I feel my back right now? Go ahead and take a few deep breaths when you're ready. There's your time. It's real slow. Use your hands. Slowly push up. Lean back, lay down, take your time here. Great. Just really let the rebound effect take place. We're going to stretch our quads next. And I wanted to do a twist while we do it, a literal twist, not figuratively. With the pose in mind, Cattail pose. If you are familiar with it, you can go ahead and make your way. If you're not, though, listen up here, and we'll all do it on the same page. Sometimes it's easier for me to explain it anyway. So we're going to do a twist. We're going to lay down, bring the knees up to the chest. Let's go left. Right, we're going to take our legs over to the left, and this is going to be the pose for now. You're going to feel the right side of the back stretching, right? This is the intended area on the twist. But the quad that I want you to stretch, just so we all know, quads are your upper thighs, right? Front of the legs. What I want you to do, I want you to grab your left foot with your right hand. And just so we all know, it is the bottom leg that I want you to stretch. So we're going left. Left leg would be the bottom leg. Grab that left foot with the right hand. And now you're in the cattail. This is a pose. So you'll feel not only the twist here in your side body, but you'll feel the quad of the bottom leg, which is a really unique posture. It's one of the reasons why I really, really enjoy doing it. And you know, we're not really going to take time to do many twists other than this moment right now. So we might as well throw it in while we can. I'm doing this in sort of a modified way. Maybe you're doing it like I am, where you're laying more on your side, maybe even closer to your stomach. But you could try to get that right shoulder down to the ground and do it more of a reclining twist. You probably won't get your right shoulder to touch the floor, so don't worry about that. But trying to emphasize getting that shoulder down to the ground is what increases the twist more for the side body. But when I do this pose, I like to sacrifice the twist just a little bit. Lay more on my side, more on my stomach, to give me a deeper quad stretch. And maybe that's what you're going for today as well. Because again, we're doing our best to do a knee series, which I don't often do specifically too much. Every now and then I'll design practices like this, but I wanted to keep everything fresh for you. I don't want to teach the same practice over and over and over again, because that's how people get bored. That's one of the reasons why I don't really enjoy doing practices like Ashtanga yoga. And I know that might sound blasphemous, but I get bored after a while because it's the same sequence over and over and over and over and over again. There's no diversion. And if there is diversion from it, it's not Ashtanga yoga. They're very specific about that. But after a while, I just get tired of doing sun salutes. It's not a bad thing, because I know that practice is great. It's really important to your health. But when I do strengthening styles of yoga, I like to do different things. I just like to make sure that my practice is different. But I do want to make it known, routines like that are not a bad thing. It's a way to measure progress, to see how well you're doing, how you're advancing in your practice. But again, for some people, it's a different strokes for different folks kind of thing. I personally just kind of get bored with it. I'll do it, but sometimes I like to diverge from the path a little bit. When you're ready, though, there's your time. Slowly let that leg go, unwind from your twist. Take your time on out. You may just want to lay here for a moment. Knees bent, feel on the floor. You could just stretch those legs out. It's really wherever you are most comfortable. But just take that moment. Short breather. Get the other side here shortly. other side when you are ready. And if you're on the same page as me, you're twisting to the right now. So you're going to lay on your back, knees up to the chest, legs to the right. You're going to lay here for a moment. And the twist is going to take place in the left side of your body, right? And then you're also going to stretch your quad, which we had mentioned quads are the upper thighs, right at the front of the legs. You're going to stretch the right quad. So you're going to grab your right foot with your left hand. You're going to pull the leg back, so you're getting your quad stretched here. And again, we had mentioned the modifications here by laying more on your side or trying to lay more on your back. But like I mentioned, you're probably not going to get your shoulders all the way to the ground. That's partly because you're grabbing on to your foot here. So if you are going to attempt laying down, don't worry about forcing that left shoulder to the ground. You're probably just going to end up hurting yourself doing it anyway. But again, just to touch back on why we're stretching the quads and why we worked our hamstrings so much, because those are the two muscle groups that are control of the knee movement, right? So if we want to flex and extend our knee, that comes from those muscle groups, right? Some really, really powerful muscles there, probably the most powerful in your body. And knees, again, they wear down. Nothing you can do about it. Every time you take a step, you compress your femur into the tibia, right? So that's right at the knee joint. That's what happens. Those bones squeeze into each other. After a while, the cartilage wears down. The connective tissues wear down. And then it turns into just bone on bone pain. And that's when serious degeneration starts taking place. And that's when you have to start considering total knee replacements. Which, by the way, I think last I read was like 1 out of 5 total knee replacements are unsuccessful. So 20% of those total knee replacements aren't successful. It's an interesting statistic to think about. And one of the reasons why they say this, well, actually, a couple. One of them is because the knee isn't really the issue. It's a lot of times somewhere along the lines of your neuromuscular system. I don't want to go too deep into that, but that is one idea that they touch on. Another one that I personally believe, I don't have evidence, but I personally believe that those who get done with their physical therapies and then stop working their knees afterwards, I think those are the people that tend to fall apart with it. They get done, they graduate, like, all right, never have to work my knees ever again. But in reality, you constantly have to work it, right? It's something you're going to have to work for the rest of your life. Maybe you do it in moderation, you do it in different ways than you normally did, but still, you got to keep working it. So don't quit on your body, because your body won't quit on you. And if you aren't ready, we're going to say it's time. Just really slowly letting yourself out, laying down here. Take a moment. Short breather. We're going to do one more pose just to kind of complement all the forward bends we did. We've done technically 3, well, I guess 2 if we count half butterflies as 1. But we haven't done any back bends. I want to make sure that we do that. Even though it has nothing to do with the knee, I still want to make sure that we do it. It's really important to keep up on. And to be honest with you, anytime I do any form of yin like this, I will specifically make sure I do a back bend. Maybe it's just 1, but I will make sure, because our backs are really important to take care of too. And we want to make sure if we're going to bend forward, then we need to bend backward. It's just a complementary thing that you have to do to your spine if you're going to do any form of yin yoga. Really, you're going to have to do that in any form of yoga. If you bend forward, you got to go backward. You should feel this dull pressure just right there in your lower back, and that's all it should be. Dull, gentle. If it feels sharp, you lower down from it. Don't push through sharpness. It's not therapeutic. It's never going to be. So anytime you feel sharpness or localized pains, consider you're probably overdoing something. That's actually something I want to shout out to for our knees. You know, if you're, since again we're doing a knee series, if you're ever doing any form of knee bending and you start feeling pain on the inside or the outside of your knees, that is your sign you are overbending it. So whatever activity you're doing, stop doing. And a lot of times what you have to do is just kind of play around with the position of your stance. So don't feel like you always have to have your feet squared right in front of you. You can turn those legs out to the sides, and sometimes it's going to help work around that knee pain. So don't be afraid to widen your stance or have your feet more at like 45 degrees instead of 90 degrees directly in front of you. It's those little things like that that make a huge difference in your practice. And being comfortable with aligning, but not in perfect alignment. Thinking about the form critically. You know, if I position my feet like this, how does this affect my body? Does it make it a little bit easier for me? Does it take away that joint pain? Does it make it more difficult? Does it hurt me? You know, it's a guessing game you're always going to have to do. So just be prepared for that and try to not focus too much on what you look like. Because what we look like, what our neighbors look like, we're not going to do things the same way because we're different. We have to worry about what do we feel. That's what yoga is all about. It's about the function and do I feel the intention of the pose. When you are ready, there's time. Just really slowly go ahead and lay down on your stomach. Just take your time here. What I'd recommend after doing a deep back bend is doing a gentle forward bend like a child's pose. Or maybe you just lay on your back and cradle the legs. We are at the end of our practice. If you're ready for Savasana, for your corpse pose, go ahead and just lay on your back. If you want, you could lay on your side or on your stomach. You can sit upright like you're in meditation. Just wherever you are comfortable, go there and close your eyes. Nothing to see at this point, but more to feel and pay attention to. Focus on your breath. Breathe low in your belly, low in your diaphragm. Turn your senses and your awareness within. And for the last few minutes, just focus on your breath. Continue to only focus on that. And if you have a thought come to mind, the moment you catch yourself thinking, just let it go. In that very moment, when you catch yourself, let it go, come right back to your breath. no formal ending to our practice. You stay in your Savasana as long as you like. That's officially all I have for you. I want to thank you all for watching and sharing your practice with me. It's been my pleasure.
Namaste.